Hello, welcome to your first video for geometry. So this video is going to be lesson 1 of unit 1. So you're going to want your unit 1 packet out. And we're going to talk about slopes and midpoints. So a lot of this is stuff that you may have seen before, but we're going to review it. So we're going to start by reviewing slope. And you probably remember slope from middle school. It's rise over run. It's delta y over delta x. It's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. However you remember it is fine with me. Just make sure you understand that those are all equivalent. We're just going to practice a little bit of slope, and then you will have an activity to go with this. So it says on the graph, plot the points. So one thing that we have to remember is how do we plot points? So if A is negative 3, 1, that means you go left 3, up 1. So this is A. And when you plot a point, if it has a label with a letter, put that letter on there, or you're just going to have a bunch of dots and you're not going to know which is which. B is 0, 5, so it means it goes over 0, up 5. So there's B. C is 4, 2. D is negative 2, 2. And E is 6, negative 4. Put my little point there. Okay. And then it says find the slope for each of the following segments. So if I want the slope from A to B, that's the slope of that line there. Now I have it on a picture. I can just count it and do rise over run. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. So my slope is going to be 4/3. And that's all you have to do. If you can count it, just count it. You don't have to use the equation. Okay, now what if you say, well, but Mrs. Weber, I really want to use the equation. Okay, fine. Let's do the slope from B to C, but use the equation. Now, the thing I do want to mention is if you look at that, from B to C, we go down when looking from left to right. So we know that this slope better be negative when we're done with it. So let's make sure. So if I want to go from B to C, I'm going to use these. And I'm going to use the formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So if I'm using B and C, there's y2 and y1. There's x2 and x1. So I would have 2 minus 5 over 4 minus 0, which is negative 3/4. And that is negative. But you might be thinking, why would you do all that? You can just count it. Rise, run. I went down 3, right 4. Negative 3/4. And then DE and DC, I'm going to do these rather quickly here. So DE is this one. Whew, you know what? I could count it, but I could also use my noggin and my knowledge of numbers. So one of the other things you can do is just say, well, how do I get from D to E? What happens to Y? Y goes from 2 down to negative 4. So how much did it change? 2 to negative 4 is it went down 6 in the Y coordinate. And then my X coordinate went from negative 2 to positive 6. So that one went up 8. And negative 6/8, if I want, can reduce to another negative 3/4. Cool. Or you could count it and say go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And there's my other slope. And then last but not least, we've got DC, and ooh, that one's flat. So when I do my rise, I go up nothing. And when I do run, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 0 divided by 6 is 0. That's a horizontal line. Horizontal lines always have a slope of 0. Okay? So 2 properties to remember about slopes. I'm actually going to give you 4 properties to remember about slopes just because I'm thinking of 4 in my head right now. One of them is that horizontal lines have a slope of 0. And then vertical lines, ones that go up, down, have undefined slope. Vertical lines have undefined slopes. And then I'm going to give you 2 others right here. Here, I'll even make it look like that little icon. Okay. So horizontal lines have a slope of 0. Vertical lines have a slope that's undefined, also sometimes called no slope. And two other things I want you to remember about slopes that I'm going to keep bringing back up is that if you notice, I have -3/4 for both BC and DE. And if I were to highlight BC and DE, I bet you'd notice something about those lines. And if you're thinking it in your head, you're right. Those lines are parallel. And the rule is parallel lines have equal slopes. And then one other thing that you're going to learn this year, and we're going to talk about quite a bit, is that perpendicular lines, perpendicular meaning they make a 90-degree angle, perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slopes. Now, what does opposite reciprocal means? It means you take a fraction, you flip it, and you change the sign. So we have opposite reciprocals right here, 4/3 and -3/4. One has a negative, one doesn't, and they're upside down. So if we come down here, which segments are parallel? Well, it would be the ones with equal slopes. And that would be DE and BC. And which segments are perpendicular? There's actually there's a two pair here. AB has a slope of 4/3, and AB would make a 90-degree angle with this one and with that one right there. It's perpendicular to both of those. So it would be that what was it, AB? AB and BC. So AB is perpendicular to BC, and AB is also perpendicular to DE. And while I'm on the notation kick, you could write DE is parallel to BC using that notation. Okay. Next page, let's talk about midpoints. Okay. So if I want to figure out midpoints, a midpoint is exactly what you think it is. It's the point in the middle. So we are going to plot these points again. So -3, 0 is A, 0, 5 is B. Nope, 5, 0 is B, pardon me. 0, 5 is C, 5, 0 is B. D is 0, -5. E is 1, 1. Nope, not there. And F is 5, 3. There's so many points. Make sure I plotted those right. -3, 0, 5, 0, 0, 5, 0, -5, 1, 1. Yeah. Now they want me to find the midpoint. So if I want the midpoint of AB, first I'm just going to do this using our noggin. I'm not going to give you a formula or anything. If I look at AB right here, it's 8 units long. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. From -3 to 5 is 8 units. So the middle would be the one that cuts it into units of 4 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That would be my midpoint. So the midpoint of AB would be 1, 0. And if I want the midpoint of DC, this thing right here, that goes from -5 up to 5. The midpoint would be at 0, right? So the midpoint there in the middle, the origin, if you remember that word, is 0, 0 for the midpoint of DC. Uh-oh. Now comes the tricky part. What if I want the midpoint of EF? Well, there's two ways to get it. One is to use the formula, but I haven't given you a formula yet. And two is to use your noggin. So if I wanted to find the middle of EF, like it kind of looks like it's right there, but it kind of looks like it is not enough work. So we need to make sure that our kind of looks like it is appropriate. So what I'm going to do is count my rise over run from E to F and then cut the rise and run in half. So I'm going to go over 1, 2, 3, 4 up 2. So instead of going over 4 up 2, I'm going to go over 2 up 1. So if I go 2, 1, I was right. That's where the midpoint is. And that's at 3, 2. Cool beans. And then DF. Let me erase some of this so it doesn't get in our way here. DF. Whew. It's a lot more counting. Maybe we should use a formula this time. So let's figure out what the midpoint formula is. The midpoint formula is as follows. x1 plus x2 divided by 2, comma, y1 plus y2 divided by 2. So if I took two things, added them, and divided by 2, that would be similar to, say, taking 5 things, adding them, and dividing by 5. What's that called? When you divide by the sum of what you have, you divide by the number of them. An average. You guys remember doing averages? Like if you want to find your average in class, you add up all your scores and divide by how many? That's what we're doing. The midpoint is just the average of the coordinates. And that's all we're doing to get the midpoint. So I'm going to come back up here and do DF. D was 0, -5. F was 5, 3. So if I average the coordinates, it would be 0 plus 5 divided by 2 and -5 plus 3 divided by 2. 5 divided by 2 is 2.5. -5 plus 3 is -2. -2 divided by 2 is -1. So let's see, does that make sense? 2.5, -1 would be right there. Yeah, that looks like the middle to me. So there's our midpoint. Okay, so there's your midpoint formula. Another way to do it is to count over and up or down, then cut those values in half to find the middle. Okay, that's midpoint. And we're done. That's it. So what you are going to do for an assignment is either in your packet, if you are using a packet, or online, there is a Desmos activity to go with this lesson. Also, I end every lesson with a really bad joke. So the bad joke today is, what color socks does a bear wear? What color socks does a bear wear? Bears don't wear socks. They have bare feet. All right, and that is all she wrote. I am done now. Enjoy your day.